Hello everyone, my name is Remy. I work with the EthStaker crew here, and today we have this great call with the Withdrawal series. We have the Withdrawal series call number 2, and we're gonna be talking a little bit about the technical side of all this withdrawal things coming up on Ethereum. I'm glad to be joined today with the fantastic people that you see around me. We have Yorick, which
Oh,
if you had any support requests, you might have seen him on Discord. We have Super Fizz, which is the main voice of EthStaker most of the time. We have Ladislaus. Hello, Ladislaus. Um,
Hey folks,
Ladislaus
thanks for having me.
is the in-house crypto economic guy, but he's also well versed into all of this withdrawal stuff. We have Nix from EthStaker as well, and we have Jason, which is gonna be doing some clips for us and some technical background stuff. So welcome everyone.
and,
Thanks for
and we're
joining us.
completely glossing over Nick's. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
No, he got me.
Okay.
So first of all, let's just go through what we're gonna see today here during this call. We'll start by talking about the recent development with the Xingjai testnet. Hopefully, I pronounced this one right. And the fork that happened where withdrawal is actually implemented and you can start using it right away. We will talk about the different technical part of the withdrawals and how you can set your own address. How does that work? How will the withdrawal work? Where are the withdrawal going to? We'll show some diagrams and we'll discuss all of this together. We will have some demo of like actually doing all of this thing. We have a few validators running live right now on the testnet, and we'll be able to show you guys how you can do this right now. The tooling is still not very good right now, but hopefully it should get better with time. We will also try to answer all of your questions. So we had a few questions on the Reddit posts where we asked people to give us their question in advance, but we'll also try to have a look at the YouTube chat for any of you you guys questioned there. So I guess that's the plan for today. So let's go ahead and talk about the Zhejiang testnet. If you've not heard about it, the Zhejiang testnet is this new testnet that was recently started with the main goal to have this Shanghai and Capella fork happening there and testing how it works, see if all the clients have a good implementation on it, do a few tests with that. Am I missing something else with the testnet here? It was started a few weeks ago, right? Do you guys know when it was started? Do you guys remember?
I don't
February
remember.
1st, I
A couple of
believe.
weeks sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
February 1st, I believe.
And so
Okay.
there was a few guides for people to get started. If you want to use fdocker, Yorick recently completed his implementation to have that working. I wrote a few guide for this. If you need the reference, we'll give it to you. But you can right away start your own node on that testnet and see how it works for you. Do some testing, get some Zhejiang ETH to run your own validator. And so there's different resources for that. And the actual changes for the Shanghai and Capella forks happened on Zhejiang. And so you can now do all the withdrawal stuff. The new stuff that happened with these forks is that you can change your withdrawal credentials and that the actual withdrawals are working now. So we'll go in details about all of this in a few minutes.
So, Remy, if someone already has validators on Gurley, or as Australians say, Gorelli, then what do they do? Can they test there?
So Gurley has not gone through those forks yet, and so people will have to wait. And I'm not sure about the actual timeline for those fork to happen there. Do anyone know when they're supposed to happen on Girly?
We have tea leaves. We don't actually know. So Sepolia, which is a 100% permissioned testnet, is going to be February 28th. And then Girly may happen 2 to 3 weeks after that. So
Like March 14th and then March 28th. Who
Yeah.
knows?
something like that. Yeah, maybe,
That's I'm just being silly. I don't know anything. That's my personal like dream layout would be March 28th or February 28th, March 14th, and then March 28th.
We'll see.
Fits a good cadence.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, so let's go right away into the meat of the subject. And let me share my screen here.
Hey, I wanted to clarify something that I think I understood, but maybe I understood it differently. When we're talking about what we can't do until after the merge, I'm sorry, the merge,
Withdrawal.
that we can't do it until after the withdrawals fork. We can now change our credentials on any of the networks, right?
No.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Okay, so maybe we start at the very bottom of it all, which is, what is withdrawals even about? Like, not from a technical level, but what is this? What is this hard fork coming up? Have we done that in one and we don't have to cover it again?
No, I think this is very valuable.
Okay, so basically, as the name says, withdrawals, you will be able to get your consensus layer, ETH, what your validator has accrued. So every time it, does a thing right, its balance goes up. So it might be at way above 32 right now, and you can't get that out. If you followed crypto Twitter, you know that this is a massive rug pull. Sorry, I'm being silly here. And withdrawals basically mean that you get your money. What we're going to go over today is the technical bits about how you get your money and where you get it to.
Yeah, so let's start with the creation operations that people might be familiar already, but which have a consequence on all of this, right? So initially, if you want to get started with staking, you need to create your validator keys. And in order to do so, ideally, you'll want to be using an offline machine. And here we have this nice diagram where we have a few operations and where you would typically want to do those. Like, this is not actually required, and you can like do all of these on the same machine, but some of these suggestions here are good practices that you might want to follow, right? So having your mnemonic never touch an online computer is actually a good practice, and this is what many of the guides that are helping you create your staking setup will tell you to do, right? So initially, when you created your keys, you'd want to do that on an offline machine, and you'd want to keep your mnemonic secure on multiple safe and private places. So the result of the key creation process will give you like a deposit file and a key store file. The key store file will be used with your validator client, but the deposit file will be used with the deposit process on the launchpad, but it will include a withdrawal address or not, right? So during key creation, you can actually decide since April 2021 whether to include a withdrawal address or not, and that will have a big influence on the actual result of your validator.
Yeah, so 2 quick notes here. One, when you say deposit file, that should actually be address down there. You see that? That says credentials, that should be address. And then for key creation, what actually is a withdrawal address? Where does this go? What does that do? What is that thing?
So a withdrawal address is just a simple Ethereum address where eventually the balance of your validator and the rewards that you get from staking will go through. So,
And what kind of Ethereum addresses could I use?
you could use any address that you want, right? So there's no limit in terms of address. You could reuse the deposit address if you want to eventually keep reusing the same address, or you could use any address and eventually with different services, like we've seen with Egan Layer, you could use even like a smart contract address there as well for
Right, so that was what we're getting at, right?
Yep.
So maybe we talk a little bit about best practices. This is your ETH. You want it to be safe. So good choices are things like a hardware wallet, right? Where
Yep.
again, the mnemonic is offline, has never been online, etc. You know you control this but this is an important thing. You need to control this address in some way, or know that, the funds are coming to you. If you set this to yorickdown.eth, for example, I will deny you ever did such a thing, and buy some stakes. So set this to an address that you know you control. Can we change this address after we set it?
So once a withdrawal address is defined for a validator, it is permanent. So it cannot be changed anymore.
So if I set this to remyroy.eth, then all my money goes to you and there's nothing I can do about it. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. It would be a good choice for me, but not a good choice for you. So
Oh man.
make sure that when you set a withdrawal address, that you have current control over that address and that you will have control in the future as well.
Okay. So some people have been concerned. They're like, well, what if I lose control? So one thing you could do is put another layer in between. Now you still need control, but maybe you can split it out a little bit. You use a multi-sig, like a safe, what used to be the Gnosis safe, and now it's just, I think, the safe app. A multi-sig contract, where you set this up so that the signatories can be changed. Maybe it's a 2 of 3 or something. There's multiple ways to set this up, where if you lose one address, you can still get your ETH as long as you have access to the others, or somebody does.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more.
It also
complex, and
requires-
we want to think through it, and we won't discuss this here in detail. Go ahead, Fizz.
I was just saying it requires extra tooling, which I recognize that it is valuable, but you're always doing that cost benefit analysis of
Absolutely
adding
100%.
extra tooling versus the value that it brings.
100%.
And I do think it's probably a good practice to use a multi-sig. I'm not doing it, but
Right. No, I'm sending this to a hardware wallet, to be honest. Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
mnemonic is in steel and in a safe and yada yada, all that good stuff. But I'm sending it to a hardware wallet, and that's the easy button. Okay, go ahead, Remy.
All right, so that's pretty much it for like the usual creation phase of your validator. Eventually, it'll get activated. And before I keep going, make sure to interrupt me if I say anything wrong, or like if you have any good comments to add. Torsten had this one correct. So let's keep going here. So eventually, once the deposit is completed, the validator will be activated on the consensus layer, and that part is very automatic. It mostly depends on the activation queue and how many people are trying to activate many validator at the same time. But like the nuance here is that the new validator will be activated either with a withdrawal address or without one, right? And so typically you'll see people call these 0x00 withdrawal credential or 0x01 withdrawal credential, right? So either the type 0 or the type 1, and the type 0 is a validator without a withdrawal address, and the type 1 is simply a validator with a withdrawal address. Right?
So I can't remember what I had for breakfast last week. But if I don't remember whether I set a withdrawal address, how do I find out?
So an easy way to find out is simply to go to Beacon Chain, so the website Beacon Chain, where you'll be able to easily tell if you click on your own validator by either searching for your public key, your deposit address, or the validator index. You'll be able to find out what's the type of validator that you have by looking at the withdrawal credential. Another way to do that would be to go through the deposit contract, but that's very not friendly.
That doesn't sound friendly. I like website.
Yeah, Beacon Chain website is pretty good for that. So once your validator is activated, it'll simply start working if your validator client is well configured, and it'll start performing its regular duties. And it will slowly accrue rewards on its balance sheet, right, on its balance. And so whether you have a withdrawal address or not, the validator will keep accruing rewards. So let's keep going. Let's look at the partial withdrawal and how you can add a new withdrawal address to a validator here. So the easy part here is the partial withdrawal, right? So once you have a validator with a withdrawal address, the consensus layer will automatically send all the rewards that are above 22 ETH to the configured withdrawal address, right? That's very simple. It'll be automatic. It'll be every few days, so you won't have to do anything. It will not be a regular transaction. So if you go look at all of these Blockchain Explorer, you won't see this operation, this like ETH increase on your withdrawal address under the regular transactions. You might need to look at the different tabs and find either like the withdrawal operations or something like that. So that's how partial withdrawal works.
Confusing.
Sorry, go ahead, Torsten.
I hope you can show that, because that sounds slightly confusing.
Yeah, we'll go through some of these examples on the beacon chain for Zhejiang in a few minutes.
Perfect.
The main part of all of this is for people to add a withdrawal address to an existing validator, right? So the way to do that, the main way to do that is through an operation called a BLS to execution change. And ideally, you'd want to do that on an offline machine, because that operation needs access to your mnemonic.
That sounds terribly technical again. Why is it called that? BLS to execution change? Just now we talked about withdrawal addresses. I understood address. What's a BLS and an execution?
It's very technical. The BLS is actually the original signature and the original like withdrawal credential that was created before
the type 0 version 0 credential without an address.
Exactly, like before the type 1 was created and implemented, right? So
is that a fair place to call it an OX00 to an OX01?
Yeah, you could call that as well.
Yeah, version 0 to version 1. So 0x is just the way that nerds say that following is hexadecimal, and then 00 and 01 are numbers. So version 0 and version 1, or type 0 and type 1 is what that means.
And this is why I did not include all of these details in this diagrams, because...
Yeah, exactly. So when we're saying BLS to execution change, you could also say set withdrawal address. That's what that does.
Yeah.
And again, how often can I change my mind here?
So as you've noticed here, you can only do this operation once, and it only works with validators who do not currently have a withdrawal address assigned to them.
Already breaking out in a cold sweat about fat fingering my address here.
Yeah, so make sure to double and then even triple check the address that you will select when you want to do this operation.
Great.
I got a question. Is there a rush to do this? Like, are validators in a hurry, or can they?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Maybe Torsten, you could answer this one if you want to.
Okay. I'll say it depends, and then I'll explain what it depends on. So if you think that your mnemonic, this thing here that should be in multiple safe and private places, right? If you think that this indeed has only ever been offline, and none of your, people who live with you have stolen this, then you're absolutely in no rush. But if you know that this has been compromised, or you suspect heavily it has been compromised, you're in a bit of a rush, because you're going to race the attacker. This can only be done once. So that means that whoever gets there first wins. And we're going to talk a little bit about a project. Well, I think we'll kind of mention it at least, that tries to help with that. That's the consensus layer withdrawal protection program. And they want to basically take this change file here and gossip it as early as possible to the chain, so you have a better chance to have that included. So long story short, if your mnemonic is safe and was safe, you're absolutely in no rush. Do this whenever. If it was compromised, or you suspect heavily it was compromised, then you're in a rush. You want to beat your attacker out.
What's the name of this project?
CLWP, Consensus Layer Withdrawal Protection project, I think. I think the P is protection or something.
And so if you believe that your mnemonic was compromised, you might want to check this project out and see if that can help you do this quickly. But for everyone else, if you believe your mnemonic is quite safe and was never compromised, never online, you're not in any rush to do this change. You can wait a few weeks, a few months, whenever you want to. The rewards won't be different, it'll be the same. They'll simply keep accruing on your validator until you start adding this withdrawal address.
Right. And so you had said, right, it's automatic. The partial withdrawals are automatic. Can I like pause it? Like if I'm really worried about taxes, can I just say stop, don't withdraw this month?
No, it's automatic and you don't have any choice in pausing this or not.
Got it. Okay. So if you want the withdrawals to start in a certain tax year, that's when you would make the change, right?
That could be an option if you're concerned about taxes, yes.
Yep.
All right, so I guess that's pretty much all for this. There will be many different tools to perform this BLS2 execution change. We will demo two today. ETHDO is one of them. The original staking deposit CLI that you might have used to create your validator key is another tool that we will demo. And so stick with us to see how that goes. So let's keep going with the full withdrawal and how people usually do their exit, right? So eventually you might want to get all your rewards and the original deposit out of your validator, and the way to do that is by doing your exit and doing the full withdrawal, right? So the exit, there's a few different ways to do that. If you get slash, you'll be forcefully exit from the network, but hopefully
that sounds like a good way.
Hopefully you'll want to do this voluntary exit process, right? So different clients have different way to do this. So you should check out your client documentation. But in some cases, you'll need the key store file that is stored on the staking machine. And you'll call this voluntary exit process that will publish this message on the consensus layer where your validator with or without withdrawal address will be moved from a working state to an exited state. So that's the first part if you want to do the full withdrawal. The next part is having a withdrawal address on your validator, right? So if you already have a withdrawal address, eventually a few hours after the exited status, and we'll go through this with Ladislas, who made a great diagram to explain all of this. A few hours after that, the full balance on your validator will be transferred to the withdrawal address.
Is it really a few hours? How often does my validator get withdrawals?
So there's a few technical details, and maybe that's a good segue to Ladislas' blog post.
Before we segue though, a couple things here I wanted to hit. That key store file, if I don't have that anymore, what do I do?
So it should always be on your staking machine because your validator client does need the signature that is contained there to do his regular duties. But if you forgot the password, you can actually regenerate this file with any of the key creation tools out there, the staking deposit CLI or the Wago keygen tools or the ETHDO tools. We'll be able to regen this file.
And what do I need to regenerate it?
You need the original mnemonic. So that was the first diagram that I showed here. So
okay.
it's the same process here. You just redo this key creation using the mnemonic. So if you lost your mnemonic, you are kind of in a pickle here.
So when I use this, right, I've seen online that there is an ETH1 withdrawal address I can set in staking deposit CLI when creating this key store. Does that change my withdrawal address if I've already deposited?
It does not, right? So the withdrawal credential and the withdrawal address is only set once when you do the deposit on the deposit contract, right? So you cannot
So I need
change.
a whole new process to do this after the fact.
Yes, so if you don't already have a withdrawal address, you will have to add a new withdrawal address on your validator, like we just mentioned here with this
Through
BLS2
through
execution
this
change.
change here, the set withdrawal address process. Got it. Okay, so if you go to full here, so I'm actually going to answer my own question. The full and partial withdrawals are the exact same method. There's no difference really, just in how the chain does it. So it loops through all validators sequentially from index 0 to 513,000 or wherever we are right now, right? And it takes it roughly-ish about 5 days right now to do this. So if you exit your validator and it's fully out and you want your 32 ETH, then you better hope that your rent isn't due tomorrow, or that you are at the right point right now in the rotation, right? Like say you have validator 513,000 and it just started over on 0, well, you got 5 days to wait.
There's some delays, and that's a great segue to Ladislas' blog post here. So let me just switch there
Let's do it.
and go through this one here. So maybe Ladislas, you can explain it to us here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've covered or you guys have covered a lot of it already. So I was actually writing a blog post on a slightly related topic, but I realized I had to sort of conceptualize the exit process once again, and came up with this diagram. And I guess what we should focus on is the right hand side, because that's really what's new with what's upcoming in Shanghai and Capella. So high level, we have when a node operator intends to stop validating, or they initiate an exit, they get queued. At some point they are exited. At some point they will withdrawable, and at some point they will have, or the status will be withdrawn. So that's the high level, like each step which a validator goes through. And by the way, we're looking really at a simple example. We want, like, the goal is to get the funds back and stop validating. So that's what we call a full withdrawal. And we have an /validator. Yeah, so I guess to highlight really what's interesting is this queue mechanism, like the exit queue and the withdrawal delay, because this is really the phases sort of which are interesting when we try to get an indication of how long it takes from initiating an exit until you get your funds back. So as you see below, this is there's some examples on whether there's just half an hour to stay in the exit queue, but when there are a lot of validators who want to exit with you at the same time, it can take days or even weeks. And then I think interesting also for node operators is that they got to keep their nodes running even after they've initiated an exit. So that's a great reminder to say, well, after I broadcast this message, I have to keep it running until I reach this exited status. So don't shut it down too early, I guess is the core idea here. And then, yeah, I assuming that you've set your withdrawal credentials to a type 1 address, there's this 27-hour withdrawal delay phase where some security background checks from the chain which are happening. So wait another day, and then you're withdrawable. And now comes the interesting part, what Thorsten was mentioning earlier. So there's this withdrawal processing, which basically means that this is this round robin cycle of withdrawals that can be included in a block, and given a certain validator set size, this may currently take up to, well, currently it's about 5 days, as you mentioned. And after this withdrawal processing time, which we can go into in arbitrary detail, I guess, but main takeaway, I guess, for node operators, again, it's an automatic process. There's no claiming, like you don't have to do anything actively here, so to say. And then after this withdrawal processing time is passed, you will see this magic balance increase, so to say, on your withdrawal address, and then basically your validator journey has ended.
Perfect. And then I can take my ETH and swap it to Bitcoin. So let's talk about this exit queue for just a second. I've seen on crypto Twitter that the moment that withdrawals are enabled, 300,000 validators will leave and the Ethereum price will crater immediately, like within the first week or so. How long would it
Just
actually
like
take for
checking to see if I'm
300,000
call
validators
owner
to
so
go?
I can mute you. I want to be call owner and just mute you because you're trolling so hard and like this is it, Jason. This is the clip we need.
So how long would it actually take for 300,000 validators to go through the exit queue?
I've heard math on live YouTube is not a good strategy. So as you can see in the diagram, I did an example at the bottom. So that's I assumed, let's say we have 10,000 validators were in the queue in front of you.
5.5 days, yeah.
So, and that's given a certain validator size set of, let's say, 500,000 validators, that leads up to about 5.5 days. So, yeah,
So 32,000 ETH can come out every 5.5 days, roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that means market-wise, there's not going to be this rush to the exits because there's an exit queue.
Yeah, and I guess the simple term again for node operators is it's a similar process to the deposit queue. Like everybody who's deposited initially, either they were lucky and it's sort of the queue was empty, and it was a fairly quick process, or again, if there were many validators in front of them, it took a couple of days or maybe weeks.
Okay, great.
Awesome. That's a great diagram. Like all of these references, they'll be in the video description. So if you want to check them out, you'll be able to easily find them. Let's move on to the demo. I believe Yorick has a nice demo for us with ETH2 tool. So let me stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Technical issues. Share screen, that's the big button I want. All right, great. And we're gonna close something here. Zoom should be gone, right? You should just see this thing. Okay, great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna prepare an exit and then possibly broadcast it. Submit your signed withdrawal change request. This is something we can do through Beacon Chain. This is one where I did this earlier, by the way. So if you look at this, you see here the withdrawal credentials when this was deposited. Beacon Chain happily shows me 0x00, so version 0. This didn't have an address. And then yesterday I set an address, and I can see up here your current credentials are 0x01, bunch of zeros, and then my Ethereum address, right? I can actually click on this and it will take me to the address. So it shows me that these were changed successfully, and that's what I'm going to do to a bunch of Remy's validators now. We're going to use EthStaker, a tool by Jim McDonald. And this, we're going to show an offline or online-offline process. So we're going to prepare a file first that has a list of all validators on the chain. Then we're going to take this into an offline machine, a Ubuntu Live USB, and then prepare the change credentials and then send that over, send the change over to the chain.
Toss, maybe one quick question.
Sure.
So you mentioned this tool ETH2. I think it's worth talking about maybe two or more sentences, because node operators are probably not used to some third-party tool they're using. So follow official client documentation is like the usual recommendation. So who are they? Why should we trust them? Maybe you can elaborate on that a bit.
And it's not the only tool, by the way. I think Remy will also do a demo of the staking deposit CLI tool and its support for this.
Can I pump Jim?
Yeah.
So ETHDo is a tool developed by a fellow named Jim McDonald. He runs a company, or he's, I guess, the chief technical officer for a company called Attestant. But we know him as the person who developed
We lost you there, Fizz.
We don't hear you anymore. All right. Well, Fizz fixes his technical problem. Nix, you want to talk about Jim? Well, me?
I can't. I certainly can't talk about it. I can't pump Jim. Sorry.
Or
Am I still off?
Yes, you're back.
No, you're back.
You're back.
Oh, great. I'm sorry. And I have no idea. This box has been misbehaving today. It already locked up one time. Jim McDonald is, he is, and I don't know where I was cut off. So he is a really fantastic fella. He is the chief technical officer for a company called Attestant. He is also regarded as an OG in the sector, and he developed a lot of the cryptography that we use for the beacon chain now. And so even though you might think of ETHDo as a third-party tool, it is generally regarded as a first-party implementation of the cryptography that we're using. He would, Jim's tool ETHDo definitely has all of the credit and credentials that a first-party tool distributed by the Ethereum Foundation would have.
Great. And we should probably also mention tooling is still being worked on, so expect more to come out, right? For example, here Beacon Chain now has a way of broadcasting this change message, so you don't have to do this yourself. You can just drag drop a file in here, right? That's the idea. There are instructions for how to do this with ETHDo here. I'm going to show this with a wrapper that automates a lot of this, but if you don't trust the wrapper, which fully understood, it's written by me, then by all means just follow the instructions here or follow what Remy will show with staking deposit CLI. Okay, without further ado, because I'm running out of time here, I'm going to show this on EthDocker with the Zhejiang testnet, and I have a command, I think it's prepare address change. I want to see that this is right. Yep, that did not work at all. Of course it didn't. I have a, we have a Docker issue lately. So
Remy, the YouTube chat is wondering if you can turn the subtitles back on.
I can't right now, but I'll try to put them back later.
Okay, great. So while I'm waiting for this to fix itself, maybe I'll go over to the consensus layer withdrawal project here for a second. They have on their site the file we're going to create just now. They have this here. So if you don't have a running consensus layer client and I just need to make the change and withdraw, right? They have the file for you. If you trust them, you can grab it from there and then still use ETHDo. Okay, let's see where my demo is going. All right, Docker Compose issue solved. All right, wonderful. So now I have the offline preparation JSON file, which I will need for the offline process. And I say here, this has 62,548 validators. Verify that that's indeed right. So if we go over here to Beacon Chain, 62,548 looks good, right? Wonderful. Now I need to use this in a live USB. So I'm going to create a USB stick, which I already did. This is all pre-prepared. And this USB stick will have, I'll actually have two. I'll have one that has Ubuntu desktop on it, and I'll just boot into it. I won't install it. So I don't need a spare machine. If you have a laptop, PC or Mac, doesn't matter. You can boot from this, boot into Ubuntu, have a second stick with your data on it, and that will have the offline preparation JSON, ethdo. You can use this shell script here if you like. It makes it easier, right? You probably also want a text file in there with the withdrawal address you're going to use. And then you want your mnemonic not in a text file on the USB stick, but just offline. All right. Now, getting this off a machine onto a stick can be a little difficult. So I'm going to just quickly play demo, say, oh, I don't have it here. Damn. Thought I had WinSCP here somewhere. Give me a second. There it is. You could do this.
Isn't this a case where most normies would just use a flash drive?
Yes. If you have Ubuntu desktop, just use a flash drive. If you have access to the machine, just use a flash drive, right? If you don't, if this is a remote machine, you could use WinSCP and then copy the files over into like your data USB flash drive here, right? So let's say we've done that. And then I also wanted to show you how to create the actual Ubuntu live CD. I'm not going to wait for it. I'm just going to show you how it works. So I downloaded the ISO. I say I should go to my USB. This should be something that's not actually your data USB, right? I'm reusing the same USB stick with something called Rufus, and just start. And that's it, right? And now this will just go ahead. Now, this is all Windows specific. On a Mac, you have very similar tools. Balena Etcher is one, Mac has its own SCP. So let's say we have done that and we've gotten our data onto a USB stick. All right. So now, because we are live and I can't actually do this on an offline machine, I am going to pretend I am and use a virtual machine. So you're going to see try or install Ubuntu, hit that, and then give it a minute and it will come up. While we're doing that, while we're waiting here, what else do we want to hit as far as questions go? Do we have good questions from the chat?
Yeah, there are a bunch of questions from the chat. I put them in the agenda. Let's start with if my 0x00 withdrawal credentials have been compromised, would the attacker have already updated my credentials to prevent me from doing so?
That's a very good question, and the answer is no. They cannot update any withdrawal credential right away. They have to wait until the Shanghai and Capella fork on mainnet, right? So, and as we've mentioned, if you believe your mnemonic was compromised, you should try to get in touch with the CLWP project, where they will try to front load all of these changes for you, and make sure you get ahead of any attacker that might want to change your credential for you.
The CLWP essentially uses social verification, as in someone saying, yes, these really are my keys, and then giving that transaction to other trusted parties who will do everything in their power to make sure that that's executed before the attacker.
So I'll just say one quick thing and then I'll let you talk. And that is, when we're here at this screen, I'm going to click try Ubuntu. Don't install it, right? Just try. And that gives me a live USB that is immediately gone after. Okay, let's continue with this other discussion.
So CLWP is a social layer way of beating attackers to rescue your stolen keys before the attacker controls them. So it is a really valuable process for those who need it. That's all.
Yes, right. And so the way they do is this, they call this gossip via GitHub. They have the JSON files on their GitHub, all public, and then people who want to can then broadcast these for the Chapella hard fork. And they'll reach out and encourage people on mainnet to do this once the mainnet clients are available, right? Which they are not right now. Okay, so I am in Ubuntu here. I'm currently connected to the network. That's deliberate. I'm going to show you what happens when I do that. I'm just going to go to Files, and there's my data USB. Great. So let's just right-click that, look at Properties. This is a FAT32 MS-DOS file system under Media Ubuntu. All right, so the next thing is a little scary. I need to open a terminal. So if I click on the lower left here, I have something here called a terminal. So now we're in CLI. And it told me this thing was hiding out in Media Ubuntu. So let's go there. Media Ubuntu, and just do a quick ls for list. Aha, it's in data USB. Okay, great. Let's do another ls. All right, so for the experience of time here, I actually have the mnemonic in a text file. Don't do this, right? Do as I say, not as I do. We're also going to show you the mnemonic on this stream, so we're absolutely going to burn it. I fully expect that you people will slash Remy's validators. Perfectly allowed the Zhejiang validators, and we're sacrificing them for this. All right, great. So let's take a quick look and make sure that we're good. Address.txt, so I have my address written down. Remy, is this your address?
Let me double check, but I believe it is, yes.
Yeah, if you could double check, right? We keep saying triple check your address. Is this really your address? Is this where it should go?
Yes, it should go there.
All right, wonderful. So I have my create withdrawal change script here. There's a small Linuxism where it cannot actually execute this directly from the USB drive. No worries. We will just say bash first, which is the shell we're using to execute it, and then tab expand this like this. So instead of just doing /create withdrawal change, which would fail, I'm saying bash create withdrawal change. That says use the bash shell, launch it, and load this file, which that it can do, right? All right, here we go. So it copies eth2 to my home directory, and it pings to see, and it says, machine is online, please disconnect from internet. It's yelling at me. Because if it's online, there's still some risk that my mnemonic gets exposed, right? So we're gonna go up here, upper right corner, we'll find the wired or wireless connection, whatever you have, and we'll say disconnect, like that. Done. Now we're offline. Let's try again. Okay, what's here with desired? So now it says we are safely offline, right? So we're now run eth2. What is your desired Ethereum address? Let's go grab that. Copy, paste, copy and paste. So make sure you control the withdrawal address. This can only be changed once. We're going to keep harping on that, right? Now, what is my validator mnemonic? What you should do here is look at a piece of paper or a piece of steel and type it, right? What we're going to do, because we don't have time for that, is we're going to copy it from a file on the USB. But please don't do this with a mainnet mnemonic. That's how your stuff gets stolen. So there it is. Consider this stuff slashed at this point because we've shown it live. And we're going to verify it. And now it says creating change operations JSON. Okay,
I'm working on the slash. I think, was it Remy that slashed me?
Yeah, I slashed you once, but it was not easy.
And now it says
I'll do my best.
It says that the change operations JSON can be found on the USB drive. And I see here, indeed, there it is. It got created, right? So now it says, do you want to break the change operations JSON into individual files for use with CLWP? So one of the interesting bits here is Remy actually has 10 validators on this, and this change operations JSON contains all 10. But the consensus layer withdrawal protection project only supports one validator per file, right? So if you have multiple validators and you want to submit this to CLWP, you would say yes here, and it would create additional files that you can upload to GitHub for them. Now, if it was JJang, of course, they're not active, but we're kind of showing this as if it was mainnet. So I'm going to say yes. And I saw all kinds of stuff going on over here. So it has now created all these JSON files with the index of the validator on the beacon chain for submission to CLWP. Now it says, please shut down this machine and continue online. So when I shut this down, I put the mnemonic in here, right? Which means that potentially it's in memory. When I shut this down, the machine it's running on will forget everything it ever knew about this entire thing. The only thing that remains is what's on the USB drive. And that's why this is safe, because we're not going back online. We're just going and saying, let's shut this down. Power off. All right, great. So that was the offline part. And now we're going to come back to the online part. So this file, this change credential file, now cd eth2.
Maybe Thorsten, one quick question.
Yes.
What is this staker supposed to do with the mnemonic you just used? I mean, apart from it's not the way the staker should operate with it, of course. But shall I keep it, like, or what's happening here?
That's actually a good question. Do I still need it after, right? So the mnemonic is used for two things. One, it's used for this change operation. We only do this once. So you might say, I'm done. But the second thing it's used for is to create or recreate your signing keys, your key store M. So if you want to exit and you want your money back, you need these key stores. In case you lose them, you can always recreate them with the mnemonic. So one, the mnemonic needs to be kept safe because it can be used to slash you. If you can recreate the keys, you can slash someone. But also, you want to have access to it so that if you lose your keys and you're like, I want to exit now, I want my money back, you can use it to recreate the key, exit, and get your ETH.
I can see a potential future where people set the OX01 credential and they're getting those regular payouts and they're making proposals, but they lose the mnemonic and fail, that, as in they can never exit. So
yes, that could happen, and that would be bad.
It's just an interesting scenario.
Right. So I have a little bit more time, so I'm going to get through this, and then I'm going to leave you guys, and I think Remy will do more demos. So I have the change operations JSON. I now pretended that I moved it back to my online machine, right? So same thing with a USB drive into an Ubuntu or via like a WinSCP or something. Somehow I got this change operations JSON back onto my machine. If I don't want to do that, Beacon Chain actually will have this broadcast tool. So you can just copy this in here and then say submit and broadcast, and it will do that. I'm not actually sure that's live. I think it is. I'm not going to test it right this very second. But that is a really nice option there, that you don't have to do this through your own machine. And everything in here is public, right? Let's take a quick look. We see the index. We see from BLS pub key, that's the public key, to execution address, and a signature. This is all public information. Nothing in the change operations JSON is private. It will be broadcast to the chain anyway, so it's entirely safe to give this to either CLWP or Beacon Chain or anyone, because you'll broadcast it anyway. The mnemonic you have to keep private. Your key store you have to keep private. This change operations JSON, not so much, right? Okay. So I have now, into the same eth2, I have put the change operations JSON file. What I'm showing you now is something I tried once yesterday. So I am hoping beyond hope that it will actually work. And that is, I'm going to do fe keys send address change. This will use ethdo again and send the address change to my consensus layer client for broadcast to the beacon chain or the Ethereum chain, right? Okay, so we're gonna be so very nervous about this. I have verified that I control 0x53. Do really change this address, right? This is your last chance. If you made a mistake, you can still back out. After this, there's no going back. Once it's broadcast, it's done. So this is your absolute last chance to look at it one more time and say, do I control this address? Is that where I want my money to go? If yes, type yes. Change sent successfully. Done. So I'm going to stop sharing. Remy, do you want to see whether you can see the change on Beacon Chain already?
Let me go and check that one.
And I unfortunately have a hard stop at 4 minutes, so I'm going to leave you guys. But thank you for being patient with me while I demo.
Let me see here. So I've got the addresses I've got the indexes of all these.
Bring up one. Well, we used one of with 0x00.
Of these ones. So let's go ahead and check the first one, for instance, on Beacon Chain.
I think your screen is not shared, by the way.
Let me just go ahead and share it too.
Oh, and my Ubuntu ISO is still burning, so we're not going to show the end of that.
All right, so here's the screen.
Okay, can you go to the money?
And if I go to the money one, the withdrawals are not here yet.
Okay.
So there's no withdrawal address, but let me try it and refresh here. So
what about deposit?
Maybe there's some delays here.
Your current withdrawal credentials are 0x00, so it's not through yet. How can that be? I broadcasted, but it's not done. How long does this take?
Maybe it's an issue with the actual Beacon Chain website. So last time when I tried this, it took a few minutes before.
I do see here your withdrawal credentials were changed successfully. The signature included was signed by your BLS pub key. So this might just be we'll blame.
Yeah, maybe there's just a small delay here.
Yeah.
So cool, it says it was changed during this epoch here, which is the current epoch.
So if everybody piles in, Ladislaus, maybe you can answer this. It's March whenever or April this was done, right? And I think there's like 200, 300,000 validators with this old key, and everybody piles in day one. How long does it take to actually get through? Do we know? Is this like days?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the chain can pick up 16 messages in a block.
So it should take maybe 4 days or so.
Yeah, so if 5,000 validators want to change, it takes about an hour for the beacon chain to process.
Got it. Perfect. So if everybody that's currently active wants to change, 3 to 4 days and all changes are in, right? It might not be immediate if there's a real rush.
So we can see here that it was changed, but we cannot see the actual change here. So I'm guessing this is just a beacon chain.
Sounds like just the beacon chain problem. We'll blame Butter. But we should also say this is brand new, right? Like all of this tooling on beacon chain, all the tooling is brand new. It's working for Zhejiang, which is amazing. It will be in much better shape for Gurley and then for mainnet. All right, wonderful, lovely. Thank you so much, guys. I have to jump. And,
is Buddha your replacement? Is
No,
Buddha going to be your replacement? All right, Buddha, you're up.
Buddha,
buddy.
did you come to defend yourself?
No, I just saw it on stream, and the reason why it isn't there yet is because it hasn't finalized. So we are waiting for the
you're waiting for finalization. That's smart. Smart. See, smart. Good.
But I see UX issues there. All right.
This is all a good test for everyone, right? So
15 minutes later, when Remy is done with his staking deposit CLI. So I think we're running over, but if Remy and everybody...
Yeah, I'll take over here. So Yorick showed you guys how to do this with EthStaker and the EthDo tool. I'll do it the other way that is currently available, which should work also. and it's with this original tool called the staking CLI tool. So let me just go ahead and do this change here too. So there's this resources page, which is linked in the video description, where you can use a special version of the staking deposit CLI tool, which I'm gonna download right away. So I've got this machine here connected already, and I'm just gonna download this this binary that was published in this PR. So I'll need this link here. So let me just go ahead and get the tool. We will extract it. And like, this is on my staking machine. So like Yorick said, you should not do this operation on an online machine for your own security, because you don't want to expose the mnemonic. But just for this test here, it'll be just easier for me to use this machine here. All right, so I'm in the directory where I have this deposit tool, and in order to perform the actual BLS2 execution change here, I have to use this new command here, which is quite complicated. But let me just go ahead and try to build the command before actually executing it here. So I need to call the deposit binary with the generate BLS2 execution change command here. So I'll just build it here, and I'll paste it afterward. So I have to specify on which chain this is. So this is not on mainnet, and it does not work on mainnet right away. It only works on Zhejiang. So we have to use this network right now. The mnemonic where I want to perform this operation is going to be the same one as Yorick just used. I just need to find the file with the mnemonic here. So it should be this one here. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste it in my command window that I'm building here. So I've got the mnemonic. I have to pass the BLS withdrawal credentials list here. So this is like, I'm not sure it should be named like this, but this is your old BLS withdrawal credential. And so if I want to get the credential, there's like many different ways of getting it. You can actually go on Beacon Chain to find that out. So if I go on Beacon Chain, search for my validator, you can find this in the deposit tab under, well, what it was just changed here. So Yorick just changed it, so I won't be able to change. This is like the new one, the type 1. But if I go back to my deposit file, I can still find this. This is which one is it? The withdrawal credential. So this was the original withdrawal credential that I have to paste in this field here. Next, I have to select which index, right? So this is, I use this mnemonic to create 10 validators. So I've got index 0 through 9. And so if I just want to do the first one, which is going to be index 0, I have to use 0 here. I have to tell which indices this validator is on, right? So the first indices for this list is 62180, and I can actually confirm this if I go on Beacon Chain as well, right? So I search for the public key for this validator, and I found this validator index here, the 62180. So I have to reuse that here. I have to tell staking deposit CLI the index, and I have to specify on which address I want this to be sent to, right? So this is my withdrawal address. So for this example, I'm just going to use this address here from MetaMask that I've been using for the Zhejiang network, right? So So that should be it for the command using the staking deposit CLI to do the BLS to execution change, right? So it's not easy. Like there's a lot of different fields, and you kind of have to go through them and find which value you should be using for all of this. But this should be it, right? So let me just go ahead and paste this command here and see what the staking deposit CLI tells me, right? So it says using this tool on an offline and secure device is highly recommended. So we already mentioned this. This is not an offline machine. This is simply to demo this operation. It wants me to confirm the execution address. This is the withdrawal address, right? So I'm just going to double check and make sure this is the actual address I want to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste it here. And it says, please ensure that you have control over this. We already talked about this. And it generated the BLS to execution change file. And it says it's in this folder here. So let's go ahead and check what's the file in here. So it's this file here that I have to publish on the beacon chain. And like Yorick mentioned, you could do this, like you will be eventually able to do this on the beacon chain website with this new tool, where you can just like display the file. So if I just call cath and the name of the file here, I can see the content. And so I could just copy this content here and paste it here and click on submit and broadcast. Right? I didn't try this yet. Hopefully it works. Maybe there was a few issues back a few minutes ago, a few hours ago. But the way that this document here is telling you to do it is with curl. So it's telling you to broadcast this file with curl. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that as well to show you guys how you can use your local beacon node endpoint to do this broadcast, right? So let me just go ahead and try to create this command. So the file that I will be broadcasting is this file here. So I'm just gonna start and build my my command before I published it. And the endpoint for my local beacon node for the Zhejiang network here is localhost, and it's on port 5053. The usual port is 5052, but on this machine I have multiple clients and multiple network, and so I had to use a different port for this. And so if I want to broadcast this file, all I have to do is type this command here, and it says could not resolve host application. There might be there's some issue with the copy and pasting here. The double quotes were using the wrong character. So let me go ahead and I got a response which is null here, but it should be fine, right? So this validator was already changed, so maybe it didn't work. But if I click refresh here, because like Yorick just used the same validator to change the withdrawal credential, but that should be how you can publish using your own beacon node.
And maybe to add here, although it should be pretty obvious for all our knowledgeable listeners, but this submitting or this message send, there's no gas costs attached to it, right? You don't need a wallet. It's no transaction fees.
It's only published on the consensus layer, right? So there's no transaction, no fee to publish this, right? So this publication would actually change the withdrawal address of your validator, right? So that's the end of my demo here. I guess we can segue to the question from the chat, right? So let me just stop sharing and see if we can go back to everyone. All right, I believe we have a bunch of questions. I don't know, Nix, if you can ask them one at a time from what you you have gathered so far?
Yeah, I think that we've sort of already addressed this one. In the case of a compromised mnemonic, what happens if a portion of the chain receives a legitimate withdrawal address, but another portion receives a malicious withdrawal address?
Right, so the way it will work, and Ladislaus, maybe you can just correct me if I'm wrong here. The way it'll work, it'll use the first one in that was submitted, right? So that's why the CLWP project is interesting, because they will try to front run everyone and make sure that your submission gets ahead of everyone else, right? So if you're compromised and you want to get ahead of everyone to make sure that your withdrawal address is defined first, make sure to get in touch with that project.
Cool. And related, if people don't use CLWP, if there is a rush, when does the race begin? i.e., how soon can they make the withdrawal address change?
So I'm guessing it'll start as soon as the Shanghai and Capella fork happened, right?
So as soon as that fork happens.
I think we can realistically expect to see an undetermined spike in gas when that happens. I think it's anyone's guess what that's going to look like, and it will likely be sustained for quite a while too. So I'll be watching ultrasound.money for a while.
Is there a point in this process where you can change your mind and stop the exit process?
So like Yorick says, there's a few different gateway, but like once you publish the BLS to execution change, it cannot be unpublished, right? And that change is permanent and can only be done once, right? So you got to be very careful when you do that. The voluntary exit is also a one-way trip, right? So you cannot, once you're exited, you cannot like unexit yourself, right? It'll just happen. But like if you get your deposit back and your reward back, you could potentially just do a new deposit and start a new validator, right? So the full circle is going to be implemented.
Cool. What are the differences in these processes that you just showed between somebody who has a single validator and somebody who has a bunch of different validators who wants to do, like, can they do this process in bulk?
So with the FDO tool, it'll be much easier to do the bulk operation, especially if you use the same mnemonic with multiple indexes. I heard a few different things about the staking deposit CLI. People were complaining that they could not do bulk operations, so maybe they'll make changes to support it. But so far, the process that I demoed only works once at a time, right? So you have to do one validator at a time to do the BLS to execution change. So all this tooling is being worked on, and this is kind of alpha or beta state. So we're just testing this with everyone, but it'll get better with time.
Well, I'm not sure if you want to answer this. This one was specifically for Yorick. It was a response to his post on the EthStaker subreddit. They said, will this make it possible for EthDocker to simply allow the user to enable the switch to the new 0x01 in the .env config file?
Yeah, I don't think I'm especially knowledgeable to answer that one.
Okay. That is all of the questions that we got in the YouTube chat and on the subreddit.
Awesome. I think we had a few questions from Reddit. Maybe we already answered it. When can we expect this on mainnet? We don't know. In a few weeks. I know Superfizz is good with predictions, so maybe he can tell us.
If by good with predictions you mean always wrong, then yes. I can guarantee you that it will launch March 28th, no questions asked. That is an absolute falsehood. None of us really has any idea. It is fair to expect it. I would say it's fair to expect it the first half of this year. That's a responsible prediction. So before June is reasonable.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable too, before June. We will have much more to say about this once the devs get in line and figure out a date for when this is going to happen on mainnet, and especially on the other testnet. So I guess they're waiting for testing this more on Girly and Sepolia first. As usual, all of these forks are being tested on the various testnets before anything is defined and published on mainnet or implemented there. Did we miss?
And I think it's
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, just it's really worth to double down on and spreading the word to test this on the Stagejang testnets because it's setting up a node is pretty easy compared to previous testnets. You have easy access to the testnet ETH. The node just takes about a couple of gigabytes of storage. So give it a try. Like it's not the usual testnet hassle you go through. It's really worth testing this on the most recent testnet.
Absolutely. I'll give it back to Nix for the upcoming withdrawal series.
Awesome. So the next call that we're going to have is going to be just an update on timelines. We will leave that open. If you guys have more questions, we can make the agenda based on that. It will be sometime after ETH Denver. It'll be whatever new things we've learned. If we have any dates in mind, or if the Ethereum network is, if dates are published for the fork, we will talk about that. And then the fourth one will be a live stream watch party. When the fork happens, we can watch those gas prices spike and watch the withdrawals happen. And then tomorrow we have a Lodestar call, and Lodestar just got added to the dashboard, so we're excited to talk to them. And if you're going to ETH Denver, please come to our happy hour. We have a happy hour on March 1st, 6 p.m. There are still some POAPs left. The POAPs act as the entry ticket for the event. You can find that in the EthStaker subreddit.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
The top pinned post right now. So if you go to EthStaker, it should be the pinned post.
I'll be there. So if you want to meet me, if you want to meet Nix, will you be there?
I will be there. I believe we're all of EthStaker is going to be there. All of like the core team is going to be there.
You have never all been together in one room.
I don't think we have. This is gonna be special. We're gonna figure out if each other is real. Great.
Do we have a POAP for this call, or is this it?
Oh, we do have a POAP for this call. I will post the link in the chat. I don't believe I can post links in the YouTube chat.
I think I got it. Let me post it for you.
Perfect.
Third POAP, I had to come back in.
The POAP is 0.001 ETH, which I think is like $1.50.
So if you want to get that POAP, just go ahead and click on that link, and you'll be redirected to the checkout website where you can just process.
And also, gas is really high right now, so you can pay on Arbitrum if you want, or you can set a really low gas price and just wait.
Awesome. I believe that's all that we had.
Gas is high?
I don't know why it's high right now.
I have no idea.
48, okay.
Probably an NFT.
Yeah,
it's always an
sounds
NFT.
right.
I'm like, I need to go blow my ETH.
What NFT? Where?
Awesome. I think that's all that we had planned for today. Thanks for everyone for joining. Thanks for Yorick for coming back. This was a great call. Hopefully it was not too difficult for everyone to follow. We'll do many more of these, and if you need support when you try those operations and when you try those tools, make sure to join the EthStaker Discord. We have interactive support where we can really help you with all of these different commands, and we know they're not easy, so make sure to ask us questions. Also on Reddit, the EthStaker subreddit is a great place to get support. I guess that's all for us.
As Ray points out,
Yep.
you point out they're not easy. It is okay to wait. you're not going to harm yourself if you don't plan on doing anything with your ETH. It is so okay to wait weeks or months, wait till gas calms down, wait till there are better, easier tooling, better documentation, better videos. Waiting is okay.
Absolutely.
100%.
Just make sure to update your validator, even if you're not changing the withdrawal credentials or
Yeah,
withdrawing
the
things.
software. Yes, once it's available. Mid-March,
Awesome.
maybe.
Thanks for joining. Have a nice day, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.